So good morning everyone. So I have already started my video on the topic nutrition in plants, which is first chapter of class 7 science. Okay, and I have already completed this topic till autotrophic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition and its type. I have already discussed about the autotrophic nutrition and its type. So let's recall what are autotrophs. So basically autotrophs are the organisms which are able to synthesize their own food by the process of photosynthesis. Okay, CO2 plus H2O in presence of sunlight and pigment chlorophyll forms what? Glucose, that is C6H12O6 plus oxygen. So this is what the chemical equation for the process of photosynthesis. Here two inorganic compound, that is carbon dioxide and water molecules, combine together in presence of sunlight and chlorophyll to form food, that is the glucose. This is what the glucose. Okay, now the term glucose is derived from Greek word which means sweet. So this is what the sugar molecules which we get from the food which we eat. Okay, now this particular glucose is stored in the plant, within their leaves, within their stem, within their root, in the form of starch. Now the chemical formula for starch is C6H10O5. So basically, what are starch? Starch is the stored food material. Okay, so glucose get stored in the form of starch. So basically this glucose and starch is what the example of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates. Now, what are carbohydrates? Carbohydrates are the biomolecule or the organic compound which is made up of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, and they plays very important role in supplying energy. Okay, so basically they contains hydrogen and oxygen in 2:1 ratio. If you see here, this is what glucose. If you compare the ratio from here to here, see 12 and 6, which is 1:2. Okay. Now again see here, this is what 1:2 ratio or 2:1 ratio. Okay. So always remember hydrogen and oxygen in 2:1 ratio. Okay. So there is one more topic. Synthesis of food. See, new topic, that is synthesis of food other than carbohydrates, by the plant, See, what we have seen till here, plants generally synthesize their food in the form of carbohydrates. Now, those carbohydrates are then used for synthesizing protein and fats. Now, these proteins are very rich in nitrogen. Capital N symbolizes nitrogen. Okay. Now, although nitrogen is present in abundant amount in our atmosphere, but plants cannot take it directly from the atmosphere. So there are two processes or the ways by which plant get nitrogenous compound. So the very first way is through the leguminous plants. See, this leguminous, what are these leguminous plants? Leguminous plants are basically pulses. This includes pulses, means dalhan. Okay. So these leguminous plants contains rhizobium bacteria. Rhizobium bacteria. So this is what? Nitrogen fixing bacteria. So what is the role of this bacteria? These are generally actually present in the root nodules of leguminous plants. See, what are root nodules? It is nothing but knot-like structure present in the leguminous plant. So these rhizobiums are present here, that is in the root nodules of the leguminous plants. Okay, now what is the role of these rhizobium? They actually convert free atmospheric nitrogen into water soluble compounds, that is nitrates and nitrites. So these bacteria convert free atmospheric nitrogen into nitrates and nitrites. These are water soluble form, and these forms can easily be taken by the roots of the plant, and in this way plant get nitrogen, okay, or the nitrogenous compounds. Now the second way is by adding fertilizers, okay, fertilizers. So basically these fertilizers are the synthetic or the chemical material which contains nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. Again, these compound mix up with the soil and is easily taken by the root of plant, and in this, by these two ways plant get nitrogenous compound. Okay. Now let's begin with the second mode of nutrition, that is the heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So I have already discussed some basic thing about the heterotrophic nutrition, isn't it? If you people remember, heterotrophic nutrition. See, now what is the meaning of hetero? Again, other, and trophic or trophism means feeding. Feeding. So basically these type of organisms depend on other organisms for their feeding purposes. Okay, so they depend on other. So they depend on whom? They depend on autotrophs directly or indirectly for driving their nutrition. But my question is, why heterotrophs depend on autotrophs for their nutrition? See, autotrophs are generally green plants, and I have already discussed about the autotrophs in my previous video if you see. So autotrophs generally contains what? Chloroplast. Chloroplast, which contains chlorophyll, which is green color pigment, okay, which helps in trapping sunlight for the process of photosynthesis. Okay, photosynthesis. Okay, so autotrophs generally contains chloroplast, and heterotrophs generally lack this particular chloroplast. This is the reason why heterotrophs depend always on autotrophs for deriving their nutrition. Okay, so the next topic is the types of nutrition. Types of heterotrophic nutrition. Types. So basically heterotrophic nutritions are of three types. So the first type is parasitic nutrition, then saprophytic nutrition, and the last one, symbiosis. Symbiosis. Okay. So before moving on parasitic nutrition, saprophytic nutrition and symbiosis, let's discuss the terminology parasite saprophyte, and symbionts. Okay, now see, what are parasites? So these are the organisms which associate themselves with the other organisms for deriving their nutrition and shelter. Okay, so these are what the parasites. So basically in this type of interaction, one species which is called parasite is always benefited, and the other species, other interacting species here is called host, is always harmed. Is always harmed. Okay, one is benefited and another is always harmed. So what is host? So this is the organisms on which the parasite depends for deriving their nutrition and also depends on the host for their shelter. Okay, so in this type of interaction, one interacting species is always benefited and another is always harmed. Okay, take one common example. Take example of animal. Very common example is lice, Jew, which is mostly present on the head. Okay, so basically what is the role of parasite? Means lice here, they generally suck our blood. That is a food, okay, for driving their nutrition, and they also lives on our head, means they take shelter on our head. So that particular lice get benefit, okay, and we, the host, is always harmed in that case. Another common example in case of animal is roundworm, which generally lives inside our stomach. Okay, so these are the types of parasites. Okay, now let's discuss parasitic plants. Okay, we have to discuss parasitic mode of nutrition in case of plant. So take one common example, that is dodder. Dodder, and another common example, that is mistletoe. So these are what the examples of parasitic plants. So dodder generally depends on the other plant. So they derive the nutrition from the other plant by developing this root-like structure. They derive the nutrition from the host plant by developing this root-like structure. Then is the mistletoe, which generally found on the mango tree. So they generally have leaf-like structure. Okay, but so photosynthesis takes place here, but they depend on mango plant for deriving the water and minerals. So in this case, mango is what the host plant, okay, and mistletoe is what the parasite. Again, dodder is what the parasitic plant, and the other plant is what the host in these two cases. Okay, now comes the types of parasites. See, parasites are generally of two types: complete parasite, and another one is partial parasite. See, what is complete parasite? It is clear from the name itself. They totally depend on the host for deriving nutrition and shelter. And partial parasites are what? They depend partially on their host. I have just explained about dodder. So this is what the example of complete parasitic plant. They totally depend on host for deriving the nutrition. And again, example of partial parasitic plant is mistletoe. I have just discussed mistletoe. They generally have leaf-like structure to carry out photosynthesis, but they depend on their host plant for deriving water and minerals only. So that is the main difference between the complete parasitic plant and the partial parasitic plant or animal. Okay, now this is what about the parasitic nutrition. See, there are several insectivorous plants also. Okay, See here, there are certain insectivorous. What is the meaning of insectivorous? Insectivorous. So there are different insectivorous plant. Okay, so to basically insect, they feed on insect eater. Okay, so they didn't generally feed on insect for deriving the nutrition. Okay, insectivorous is insectivorous plants. Okay, so take common example, that is Venus flytrap and pitcher plant. So these are what the examples of insectivorous plants. Okay, they generally depend on insect. They generally feed insects. Okay, so let's take pitcher plant. What is pitcher plant? In case of pitcher plant, one leaf get modifies into pitcher-like structure. Now, what is the meaning of pitcher in general? Matka. Okay, if you see here the shape, it resembles with the pitcher. Okay, see this. And there is one lid or covering, okay, and this is what the pitcher main body. So one leaf of pitcher plant get modifies into pitcher-like structure. Basically, there are several hair-like projection which is directed downward. Once the insect enters inside this structure, this lid get closed. Okay, and that particular insect get trapped within that structure. Okay, now the cells of pitcher plant secrete digestive enzyme in order to digest that particular insect. Now my question here is, see, in pitcher plant photosynthesis also take place, but so why there is need for trapping this insect by these plants? See, they generally, Venus flytrap and pitcher plants generally grows on soil which are deficient in several minerals. Okay, so basically they are deficient in nitrogen. Okay, so in order to compensate that nitrogen deficiency, they trap insect. Okay, in order to balance their nitrogenous component, they generally traps insect. Okay, that is the reason why they trap insect. Okay, now this is what the parasitic nutrition and insectivorous plant, and then comes the another type of heterotrophic nutrition is what the saprophytic nutrition. Now first come, what are saprophytes? See, these are the group of organisms which depend or derives their nutrition from the dead and decaying organic matter. Okay, for example, fungi, bacteria, mushrooms, and so on. So these are a few examples of saprophytes, and the type of nutrition they have is what the saprophytic nutrition. What they basically do, they just secrete digestive enzyme outside the body. Okay, in case of saprophytes, digestion takes place outside the body. Okay, so they generally secrete digestive juices outside the body on dead and decaying organic matter. And what is digestion? We all know digestion is what the conversion of complex food molecule into simpler one. This is what the process of digestion. Okay, so saprophytes generally secrete digestive juices outside the body, which generally acts on the solid food material, food decaying material. Okay, and that is converted into liquid and then is finally absorbed by the organism. And this type of digestion is called extracellular digestion. Extracellular digestion. See, this is not given in your book. Okay, just for your knowledge. So this type of digestion is called extracellular digestion. Extra outside the cell. Okay, now this is what about the saprophytic nutrition. Now comes symbiosis. See, what is the meaning of symbiosis? See, sim means together, and bio means life. Okay, so here, what is symbiosis then? Two different living organisms associate themselves together to form symbiotic association, and the two interacting species are called symbionts. Okay, so take one example, very common example of symbiosis or the symbiotic association is lichen. So what are lichens? These are what the symbiotic association of alga and fungi. See, I have already discussed in my previous video like what is alga. They are generally greenish in color, means photosynthesis takes place here. Okay, so they generally synthesize, they are able to synthesize their own food. Okay, so they synthesize food by the process of photosynthesis. So what is the role of fungi here? Fungi generally absorbs water and minerals from the soil. They generally supplies water and minerals from the soil. So here alga supplies the food to the fungi, and fungi in return supplies water and minerals to the alga. So if you see here, in this type of interaction, both of the interacting species is benefited. Okay, दोनों को क्या हो रहा है, फायदा मिल रहा है. एल्गा अपना खाना बनाकर फंजाई को ट्रांसफर कर रहा है और फंजाई वाटर और मिनरल्स के एब्जॉर्प्शन में मदद कर रहा है. हमने पैरासिटिक मोड ऑफ न्यूट्रिशन में क्या देखा था? In this type of interaction, one species is benefited and another is always harmed. In saprophytic type of nutrition, one is benefited, means saprophytes or the saprotropes. Saprophytes are also known as saprotropes, so they don't get confused. So in this type of interaction, one species is benefited and another species is neither benefited and is nor harmed. क्योंकि वो क्या है, दूसरा interacting species तो dead है ना, तो उसे ना तो फायदा होगा, उसे ना तो नुकसान होगा. But in this type, in symbiosis, both of the interacting species is benefited. दोनों को ही क्या होगा, फायदा होगा. Take another example. I've just discussed about the leguminous plants. Basically the roots of leguminous plants plus rhizobium, which is the nitrogen fixing bacteria. Okay, so here this is again example of what? Symbiotic association in which both of the interacting species is benefited. Okay, see, leguminous plants generally contain the rhizobium. Okay, and these rhizobium fixes atmospheric nitrogen into nitrates and nitrites. Okay, and these particular nitrates and nitrites are then absorbed by the roots of the plant. And what is the role of leguminous plants here? These supply food and shelter to the rhizobium. So in this type of interaction, again both of the interacting species is benefited. Okay, so what is the role of nitrogen? See, nitrogen plays very significant role in the synthesis of protein and also in the synthesis of chlorophyll. That is why it is very important. Okay, so these are what the examples of symbiotic association. Okay, now comes the last topic of this chapter, that is replenishing the soil. See, the last topic of the chapter is replenishing the nutrients in the soil. So what is the meaning of replenishing? Replenishing means refreshing, then or returning. There are so many meanings. Returning or rejuvenating. Okay, so basically replenishing means returning nutrients back to the soil. So basically different plants require different minerals for their growth and development. Okay, so what will happen if we grow same type of plant or same type of crop on a particular field of land? So what will happen? So that particular crops absorbs particular nutrients, okay, and after certain time duration there will be deficiency of that particular minerals. Okay, so for longer, if this type of practice is continued for longer time duration, then that fertile land get converted into barren land. Barren means infertile land. That is why it is generally instructed to practice crop rotation. Okay, so this we will discuss in detail in our higher classes in class 8 in the first chapter, what is crop rotation and all. Okay, so basically it is very important to practice crop rotation. Okay, so in case of forest, you must be wondering like वहाँ पे तो आप जाकर उस पेड़ पौधों की तो देखभाल करते नहीं हैं, तो वहाँ पे क्या होता है, वहाँ पे भी प्लांट्स काफ़ी ज़्यादा मैसिव अमाउंट में ग्रो कर रहे होते हैं, isn't it? तो वहाँ पे क्या होता है, जो लीव्स होती हैं पेड़ की वो ऑटोमेटिकली जो फॉल करते हैं और जो एनिमल ऑर्गेनिजम्स जो डेड होते हैं वो क्या होते हैं, डिकम्पोज कर डिकम्पोजेस बनाते हैं. ठीक है, और वो डिकम्पोजिशन के बाद क्या होते हैं, वो वापस से जो न्यूट्रिएंट होता है वो वापस से हमारे लैंड तक, हमारे सोइल तक वापस मिल जाता है. ओके, इन केस ऑफ फार्म लैंड, in case of agricultural land, basically the farmers uses fertilizers and manures in order to replenish the soil. Okay, so water fertilizers, water manures, these are generally used to enhance the fertility of soil. Okay, manures are generally organic and these are what, inorganic. Okay, so fertilizers generally contains again nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, and manures are what, generally they are not man-made, they are natural. Okay, so it is generally instructed to not use fertilizer in case of leguminous plants. Why? See, leguminous plants also contains what? Rhizobium in their root nodules. So, the rhizobium convert the nitrogen into nitrates and nitrites. Therefore, there is no need of adding any supplement or any other nitrogenous compound in that particular field, because excessive of nitrogen also harms the crop. That is why it is generally instructed to not add fertilizers in case of the leguminous plant. So this is what the end of the chapter 1. If you feel any problem, if you have any query, then you please discuss it with me in the comment section. I'll definitely sort it out in my next video. Okay, so thanks for watching the video. Okay.